This is Andi Purewal of Boxing News. I'm joined by Michael Conlan over Zoom. Mick, always a pleasure. How are you? How are you finding kind of somewhat readjusting into the UK time zone now?
Yeah, mate, it's good. Body clock is still quite off, but it's getting there. I'm back here seeing the family, and then heading back out to Miami very soon.
Obviously, heading back out to Miami because you've officially announced your next move on a trainer front, teaming up with Pedro Diaz. Mick, just talk me through what stood out for you with Pedro. Why make that move with him?
Yeah, I tried it a few coaches, but Pedro for me ticked all the boxes. He's very focused coach, very knowledgeable coach. Has trained 21 Olympic champions and trained the likes of Miguel Caro, Rigondeaux and stuff. So um, his track record speaks for itself, but also his training methods and how he was doing things when I was in the gym, really aligned with my views on boxing and how I like to do things. So yeah, that's probably the reason why I've chose him, and I'm really excited about the partnership.
Well, I know it's very early stages yet, and you've got to obviously go back out there for a full camp with him. But what's it like when you're trying to transition from, what Adam would have been working on you with and what Adam saw in you, and then maybe Pedro picking up on different things. Maybe Pedro sees things which he wouldn't have wanted you to do, which Adam did want you to do, for example.
Yeah, it's all slight little adjustments, and he'll ask you questions why you're doing things and why I was implementing these kind of tactics and stuff. And you know, he's once I spoke to him, he's already went and studied me very much so. He's went and watched a lot of my fights, a lot of my amateur fights, and a lot of my professional fights, and has just asked me little questions why I do things, and trying to tweak things and adjust things to the his kind of methods of training.
What do you feel like is going to be the biggest benefit of going out there then for you, Mick? And obviously, when we first spoke after you split with Adam, you said if you were to consider an American coach, you'd like somebody on the East Coast because obviously you've got a very young family. You want to be able to keep in touch with as frequently as possible.
Yeah, I think for me, Staleways is the style I've always admired from afar, and the Cuban style of boxing is something I've always admired throughout my whole career as an amateur and stuff. So they implement little things which I've always loved into my own style will be nice, and to have a doctor of boxing, Pedro Diaz, to help me do that will be great. And I think obviously being on the East Coast, being in Miami, it's a nice place to be. It's not like it's not. It wasn't really a hard choice when you're asking, am I going for like rainy, cold UK in the winter or a nice warm Miami in the summer, or sorry, in the winter. So yeah, it was nice, and it'll be something different. And obviously, I'm not too far from home. The time difference of 5 hours or something, so it's not too bad. And it'll just be training camps. I'll be out there for training camps, and I'll be out there, the whole year away from my family, which would be quite tough. But whatever needs to be done now has to be done. And I think this is, something that I need to do to kind of try to reach that goal of become world champion. And these are the first steps I've got to take to get there now.
I imagine obviously since the Lopez fight was a difficult period for you to come through, Mick. Do you feel revitalized now? Do you feel fresh? And do you feel like this is the next chapter in your career which you really can grasp and make the most of?
Yeah, definitely. When I went out there to do the training, before I went out, I was half-assed. I was like going, didn't really want to do it. It was like kind of very reluctant to kind of even do it because it was like I can't be annoyed with this shit, having to go and get a new coach and all, and having to go through the process. But when I got there and I started working with the coaches, it did revitalize me, and it did kind of give me that second win and energy and thinking, fuck, we can do this here. Could definitely get there. I think I'm in the right place. I think it's the right time now, and now I've gotta get the head focused and get a date and work towards that, and obviously go and get back on the win away.
Come on to what's next shortly, Mick. We're just sticking with this most recent move. Can we pry into anybody else who you did kind of look to work with, or you might have had any trial periods with?
Yeah, I tried out Bunny McGirt and I tried out Jorge Rubio, both two fantastic coaches as well. And the decision for me was quite tough. Um, I tried those guys out, all very knowledgeable, all very, you know, very much wanting to train me, wanting to work with me, and on the ball with it. But everything which I had wrote down before with my brother, we sat down and we had a few pointers set it which we would have wanted from a coach. Pedro ticked them all, and there were probably one or two little things that other coaches missed, but they were both fantastic coaches. The other two which I tried in Buddy McGirt and Jorge Rubio. So who knows? If in a few years I decide to change again, it could be one of those guys. I don't know, but I plan to kind of see out the rest of my career with Pedro.
Just before we do move on and talk about what's next, you mentioned the great Guillermo Rigondeaux earlier on. Did you cross paths with him out in Miami? Have you had any conversations at all with him?
No, he wasn't in the gym. He wasn't in the gym. First time I met Rigondeaux with Pedro was actually when he fought Lomachenko, I think, in the Garden. I was on that undercard. I think I was co-main event for that actually, and I met both of them there. And Pedro was actually showing me photos and stuff, going, "Oh, you remember this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." But Ray Gondo has been one of my idols in boxing for a very long time, and someone who I'll be able to learn off and share the ring with over there in training. So yeah, fantastic.
I'm sure that's sparring that a lot of people would pay to see, Mick. Before we do, let's move on now to talk about what the next chapter looks like for you. Have you had those initial conversations with other promoters, with your team about where the land lies in trying to position yourself back into the frame for a world title shot?
Yeah, we're in the middle of conversations at the minute. Negotiations ongoing. About what the next steps will be. Nothing nothing in paper or in writing yet. But initial talks have been very good, and most likely I'll be out before the end of the year.
What's kind of, I know it's all initial at the minute, but what is the plan for you that you'd like to see come to fruition? Unfortunately, I don't imagine you'll be able to just walk back into an immediate title shot. You might have to have one or two before then, maybe an eliminator of sorts. But what's the route looking like for you?
Well, I'd say the first fight here back, if it is this year, you know, I'm just starting with a new coach. Probably going to be in a different, completely setup with promotional ways and stuff. So I don't think I'm going to be jumping into the deep end right away. I'll have a comeback style of fight, something which I'm probably expected to go and do the job in, and then into a decent fight. I think eliminator, something like that. Early next year, mid next year, and then hopefully back into the world title by the end of next year or the start of the following year. My goal is always be world champion, and I still have that goal. I've tried twice, I've failed twice, and I still have the desires to be a world champion. So I know I'll get there. The route, is never straightforward. It isn't always straightforward, and definitely for me, it hasn't been straightforward here. I could have been world champion 2 years ago now, but now we're moving forward, and we'll see what the crack is now.
Every intention of sticking to featherweight?
Yeah, of course. I've seen people say after the last fight he needs to move up and weight and stuff, but I actually make featherweight quite easy. I don't struggle at all. I'm big enough for the weight. Yes, my height and everything is good for the weight, but I actually make the weight quite easy. So I'm not gonna blame it on the weight and change weight, because I see a lot of fighters that do that. They lose and then they blame the weight. It's nothing to do with the weight. The last time I fought was an off night, and it's as simple as that.
Mick, just kind of looking at the featherweight division, then obviously a fight which I'm sure you'll be as eagle-eyed with next weekend as the rest of us, Lee Wood and Josh Warrington, as we edge and draw ever closer. What's your thoughts on it?
I don't know who wins. I think it's going to be a good fight, but I honestly don't know who wins. I've been asked this question a lot by a lot of different people, and sometimes they'll say Lee, sometimes they'll say Josh, but honestly, I can't put my finger on. I don't know who wins, because I can see a way for both guys winning. I could see a way for Josh stopping Lee, or beating him on points. And I can see the exact same for Lee. I could see how Lee could knock Josh out, but I also could see how he could probably win comfortably on points if he uses his boxing. But for me, it's a pick and fight. I can't say you can't say that Josh is at the tail end of his career, and it's made for Lee to win because I think Lee is probably older than Josh. I'm not too sure. So, it's a good fight. Whoever wins, I'll look at. I would like to look at either of them, winner or loser. I'll be happy to fight either of them, winner or loser, because let's be honest, they're probably some of the biggest money making fights for me. Is either of them, and it doesn't matter if they win or lose. I think they're just massive fights. So yeah.
I think that's one thing which I don't think anybody will disagree with. That there would be huge fights, and of course, you obviously have a very big backing who would travel over from Ireland to watch you, Mick. With that in mind, who do you think? Who would you rather step in the ring with? Would you rather Lee Wood come out on top and have the rematch, or
I'd
Josh
rather fight Lee,
Warrington?
I'd rather fight Lee simply just because of the last fight. What fight makes more money would be the real question, and I'd probably lean towards Warrington because he probably has a bigger fan base, and we could probably do a bigger gate and stuff and bigger attraction. But the fight I'd rather have is Lee.
I know you said you kind of sit on the fence with it, but what's the key factors for both men next weekend?
I think I have a feeling Warrington is going to go for the stoppage and try and pressure and try to take Lee out. Do I think he can do that? He could. He is much more engine dependent than I am, and he just like uses his engine so much. So, who knows if he had Lee or I had him, he probably could have got him out. And I think that's what he'll be looking to do. And seeing that on paper, I'm not a big puncher, but I know I can give people respect my power, and I showed that in the fight with Lee. And I think Warrington, who on paper isn't a big puncher, will be thinking the same. He thinks he can hurt Lee and take him out. He'll go for that. He'll use his engine. His engine will be key for him, no matter what, no matter if it's points or whether if it's trying to take him out. His engine's going to be key. He's going to have a high work rate, but also good defense. Lee is going to have to be patient, pick his shots, and not just go back in straight lines. He's going to have to keep changing the angles because Josh will just keep following him around the ring. And if he's smart and kind of takes his time, picks his shots, and gets the respect from Warrington early. If he gets the respect from Warrington early, it could be an easy night. But whether or not Josh is going to respect him is the question.
Mick, we recently saw another old foe of yours, Luis Alberto Lopez, return with a victory against Joyce Gonzalez. Some critics from that performance, but after it, we saw Lopez-Ramirez call him out. Just get your take if we did see a Lopez-Ramirez unification.
It'd be a great fight. It'd be a fantastic fight. I'd probably lean towards Robisi. I've shared ring both of them in terms of who I believe is the better fighter. I believe Robisi would be the better of the two, much more skilled, high work rate, high engine, and I just think he would probably win on points. But who knows? Lopez is crazy. He's a weird man. Fights crazy, and I definitely think he would have a chance of beating Robisi. It's not going to be a one-sided beatdown or anything. I think it's a close fight, but I would lean towards Robisi in that one. Do I think it happens? Though is the question. I don't think it happens. I think Lopez possibly moves up.
What do you feel like? He struggles with the weight, or
No, I don't think he struggles with it, but I think he moves up. I don't think he would. I think there's bigger fights for him there than Robisi, even though it's unification. I'd say you could go up and have an all-Mexican showdown with Navarrete. Probably get paid more than what he would for Robisi, because it sells more, especially in Mexico. Or he could go up and he could be looking at an Oscar Valdez, seeing how Oscar performed against Navarrete in his last fight. He could be looking at him going, okay, he's probably there for the taking now. Let's go for him and see what that is. So there's bigger fights from there. I'd say with him, it'll all be all down to the money and where he's getting paid most.
And Mick, just a few other topics to get your thoughts on before we wrap this up. We saw Conor Benn return this past weekend. What did you make of his first fight since the Van Heerden bout?
I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it, but by all regards and anybody I've spoke to, he looks like he's lost his power. Moving up to 154, or in the absence of everything else. Who knows? But I didn't pay much attention to it. But I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to line up the Eubank fight, and as much as I'm against the doping and boxing stuff, I'll probably still watch that fight if it happens.
What would be your thoughts on if Conor was to face whether it be Junior, but the other name on your throat is Josh Kelly, obviously a former campmate of yours now?
Yeah. I think they both beat him. I think they both beat him. I think if Conor was to fight Eubank when he was supposed to fight him, before he get caught open, he probably would have won on that stage. But after Eubank's last performance, and it seems like he has the head screwed on now, I would lean towards Eubank. I've always said Josh would beat Ben. It's just if Josh is switched on in the head and Josh kind of can focus mentally, he wins that fight in my opinion.
And Mick, obviously somebody who I imagine you know well from kind of amateur days, and I'm not sure if you actually would have crossed paths while she was with Booth at any similar points. But Joyce's defeat to Zhang this past weekend, what did you make of what was a stunning performance from Zhang, and unfortunately where it goes?
I was devastated for Joe. Devastated for Joe. We trained together, when he was at Booth's gym, and also, yeah, I cross paths him throughout the amateurs and stuff, and I was good friends with Joe. Still speak to Joe often enough, but in my opinion, he just didn't look like himself. It was the first time I've ever seen him look a little bit nervous walking to the ring. He didn't look like the same Joe Joyce, which was going who was there going into the first fight. That confidence was walking in, not a care in the world, not an emotion showing on his face. But this time it just looked like it was something different, and he obviously that Zhang fight, the first one, has stuck with him, and he hasn't been able to shake it off. And he's been into that fight with the fear of what could happen, and obviously being taken out. And the first time in my life I've ever seen him really hurt. Even the first fight, when he got his eye damaged, it didn't look. It looked like he got hurt throughout the fight, but it wasn't showing emotionally. And his eye was damaged. He stepped on damage to his face, not to actual stoppage. It's the first time I've ever seen him properly hurt, and it was scary. When them big boys are punching, anything can happen. And we know Joe for being indestructible. I know Joe from being indestructible, and I've never seen him hurt to the head. Now, I seen Brent Jennings hurt him to the body, and I was like, fuck, it's the first time I've seen him ever hurt Dan. But when that happened the other day, I was gutted because he's just such a nice big guy. Animal, absolute animal, and he just looked like he lost a lot of his confidence and a lot of that aura of indestructible.
You feel like retirement might be something you'll have to consider now, or?
Eh, I think it's up to him. It's up to him. I can't. I'm not going to sit here and point at retirement for anybody because, you know, after my last fight, people were saying you should retire and stuff, and I think that's a load of bollocks. You know what I mean? It's not like, I know I'm not shot war. I'm not like past that my timing hasn't gone or anything. I know what went wrong, so I'm okay in that sense. But who knows? Joe might know what went wrong. He might know where things have went wrong, and I just hope that whatever decision he makes, it's the right one for him, and not what other people should say.
Mick, this weekend we see Canelo-Charlo out in Vegas. It's obviously a lot of people saying it's tall ask for Jamal moving up 2 weights, but what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think the same. I think Canelo will show levels in this fight, and I think he destroys Charlo. 2 weights, you can't come up 2 weights against someone who's fought as high as light heavyweight, and was probably willing to fight a cruiserweight at one stage. I think. Um, yeah, I think he takes him out, and he takes him out mid rounds. I'm not going to say mid to late. I'm just going to say mid rounds. I think he takes him out. I think he'll break him down within 3 rounds and have the kind of grips of him and have him out of the ring before 7.
We had a fantastic fight announced yesterday, I believe it was, in Regis Prograis versus Devin Haney at 140. Mick, what do you make of it?
Well, if you go off Prograis' last performance, you're starting to lean towards Haney, aren't you? But like I remember watching Prograis versus Taylor and thinking, fuck, you know what? Prograis is unbelievable. I actually think that fight was a pick'em fight, really. Um, I didn't know who won it today. I was like, if you say Prograis won here, I'm not going to say no. But if you say Taylor won, I'm not going to say no. It was that close. Um, so if he can bring back that little bit of form, and I know that he'll be up for it this time, you know what I mean? His last opponent, he probably wasn't up for. How he'll be up for a Devin Haney. Um, but Haney's riding the wave at the minute, and he's got the performances. He just beat Lomachenko and undisputed and stuff, moving up to the next weight, and he's a big boy. I remember walking past him, or walking back. I was going the way in when I fought in Vegas. Who card was that? I forget the card it was on. I fought in Vegas though, and Haney was walking past me, or was walking in front of me, and I was going, "How the fuck does he make lightweight?"
Mick, we'll just pick that back up there. We just timed out as we approached the end of this interview. You was mentioning walking past Devin and how big of a lightweight he seemed.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was walking past him and I was going, how does he make lightweight? The guy looked like a super middleweight right there and then. He was big. It wasn't like he was fatter than him. He was just big and broad and thick. And you're going, I don't understand how he makes lightweight. It was crazy. And now he's up at, light welterweight. It's not much weight of a difference, but 5 pound of a difference. But like, come on. He could be fighting at middleweight if he really wanted to. He's that big.
One thing which I saw as an interesting point is I saw somebody raise over social media is how does Regis stop Devin from possibly tying him up? Obviously, we know he's a big boy, even though he's moving up. But how do you go about trying to stop somebody from doing so? We saw Devin use that effectively in the Loma fight.
Um, it's the inside fighting, isn't it? How he's going to fight on the inside and how he's going to use the hands, not to let him hold, but the punch as he's trying to hold, and that little Roberto Duran type stuff that Prograis does try. He does kind of implement a lot of Duran's type of boxing at times. So, it'll be interesting to see. He is small. He is a small light welder, and even compared to Devin. Devin's a big late welder. So well, it'll be interesting, but I think he's naturally strong and does punch hard. So it'll be funny to see how he will be on the inside, because I say he's physically strong too. Even though he is small, he'll be physically strong. And can Devin, who is moving up, be able to hold him and tie him up? I don't know.
We have had a couple of press conferences as well over these last few days. Mick, I want to get your thoughts on those upcoming fights. Firstly, I know you'll be rooting for her to get her revenge in a rematch, Chantel Cameron, Katie Taylor. How does Katie go about reversing the first result?
It's a hard one. It's a hard fight for her. And you know what? You gotta give her some credit, because to take that immediate rematch, to do the same thing again, at the weight above still, she could have said, no, come down the lightweight and do it. But she didn't. And Chantel wanted that as well. I know that. But Katie was like, no, I'll beat you. I gotta beat you your own weight. And how does she go about it? I think she just needs to stick to her boxing and use her skills, instead of getting caught dragged into a brawl. But it's a hard one for her. I'll be rooting for her. I want her to win. I'm a friend of Chantel too, so I probably sound like a dickhead when I'm saying that, but um, Katie's I've known Katie all my life. You know what I mean? I've known her from the amateur squads. We went to 2 Olympic Games together. So obviously I'm going to support her, but Chantel's a fantastic fighter, and I think she showed that last fight. How good of a fighter she actually is. Um, Tough as nails, strong, physically strong, punches hard, and went in there and put on a performance, probably with a handful of fans in the arena and everybody else against her wanting her to lose. But she went and done the job, and you got to give her credit. And she's going to go back and try to repeat. And but as I says, I'm friends of both, but I'm rooting for Katie.
And another fight which has split opinion. They had their first press conference last week. They're doing the rounds in the UK this week. Sonny Edwards and Bam Rodriguez. Mick, please, again, your thoughts on that one.
No, a lot of the Americans and stuff are all leaning towards Bam, and it's because they've seen a lot of Bam, and they're probably not a fan of Sonny's style because it ain't the most fan friendly, but it's effective and it wins because you can't hit that kid with a handful of rice, man. He's just that good at moving. Knows how to get away shots and doesn't get dragged into wars when he doesn't need to. I maybe should think about doing that myself at times, but he's a very smart fighter, and I think he schools Bam, And as much as a fan of Bam, which I am, and I am because he is an unbelievable fighter, really, really impressive. So young, and has went and beat the guys who he has beat is unbelievable. Um, Now whether I'm underestimating Bam just because of his style, I just think Sonny's style beats all those guys, and especially the later weights. Like, I don't think Bam will be able to catch him. He's like a little ghost and just dances around him, and he can maintain it for the 12 rounds. So I'm leaning towards Sonny Edwards UD. Not leaning, I'm lumping on that.
Right, Mick, listen up. It's a pleasure to catch up with you now. I'm going to leave you to go obviously enjoy some downtime with your family before you make that move back over to Miami to start camp. So I look forward to an announcement on your next outing, and thank you for speaking to me in Boxing News.
Here's on. Speak to you soon, mate.